Hi everyone. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation for South Kern Mutual Water Company and Old River Mutual Water Company. My name is Hamish Kellum from Provost and Pritchard, and I'll just be giving a review of our materials for the first community meeting for these two water systems as administrator for the systems. And while we didn't get the opportunity to connect with you all in person at the meeting, we do understand that schedules can be really busy. It's not always possible for us to all attend in person, so just to ensure that everybody has access to the information that we intended to share, we have recorded this presentation for your convenience. In this video, we're going to cover some key topics, including updates on water system performance, some of our ongoing and future projects, the financial health of these systems, and then some plans for the future in improving these water systems while we're serving as administrator. We really do value your input and really encourage you all to reach out with any questions or comments. So we'll have contact information supplied at the end of this presentation, as well as information mailed out to your homes. Please provide any feedback possible or willing to provide. It's really crucial to our efforts in serving your community better and working with the water system that serves your community. So thanks again for your continued support and engagement. So brief agenda of items that I'm going to be covering in this recording today. So I'll go over some introductions of our team here at P&P, as well as the subcontractors that we work closely with in the administrator program. Then provide an overview of the administrator program, some of the functions of Provost and Pritchard as administrator for these systems, how Provost and Pritchard was appointed as administrator, some of the goals of the administrator program. It's funded by the State Water Resources Control Board, and a bit of a look into our post-administrator plan once Provost and Pritchard completes their time as administrator for the systems after 2 years. I'll then jump into a bit of the work completed up to date, go through some of the work that is underway currently, and then I'll dive into a few of the plans that we have begun drafting for the two systems. That includes the Community Accountability and Engagement Plan, which for these community meetings is a requirement of. And then that also includes the Emergency Response Plan and an Operation and Maintenance Plan, as well as a Governance Plan and a Financial Management Plan. Then go into a bit of the water system performance, how these systems are doing at the moment, as well as some of the emergency response for the systems, numbers that you can reach in emergency, and then discuss some billing and water rates. Should have been seeing some bills starting to arrive in the mail from Golden State Water Company. Those have switched over from McMoore Water Services, so we'll discuss that a bit further in detail later on. And then also we'll touch on the financial health of these systems, as well as some of the upcoming activities and items looking ahead. Housekeeping items here, these don't really apply during the recording, but for future meetings, just please keep these items in mind. And some introductions. So as I said, my name is Hamish Kellum. I'm the project manager for these two systems, as well as a number of our other administrative projects in the state. I work closely with Kristen Bitzberger, who's one of our environmental specialists. Kristen is based in our Visalia office, while I'm actually based down in Los Angeles County. Then I have Steve Spencer, one of our principal engineers, based out of our Clovis office. Clarissa Johnson works in accounting, is our bookkeeper for the two systems, also based out of Clovis, and as well as Becca Quist, who is a lead of our public affairs team, also based out of Clovis. So a bit about Provost and Pritchard. So Provost and Pritchard is an engineering consulting firm with about 10 office locations. Our most recent office was just over in Idaho, in Boise, recently opened there this year. We then have offices in California, stretching as far north as about Chico, and we then work down south as far as Bakersfield and San Luis Obispo. We do have some staff scattered all about Los Angeles County as well, such as myself. So Provost and Pritchard was contracted with the State Water Resources Control Board as a technical assistance provider and water system administrator for Old River Mutual Water Company and South Kern Mutual Water Company. We have a range of specialists that you can see here, including engineers, hydrogeologists, environmental planners, land surveyors, construction managers, field reps, as well as other support personnel. So we have a range of services that we offer in-house here at Provost and Pritchard. And for anything outside of those services, we do also work closely with sub-consultants. So some of those sub-consultants, the ones working closely with us on this project, are Golden State Water Company. Don White is their water quality manager over there, helps us provide regulatory and billing services. Dennis Gatson is the president and lead contract operator over at McMoore Water Services Company as well. Some of you have met Dennis or some of his crew before. They've been serving as operator for the systems for a number of years now, and were previously running billing for Old River Mutual Water Company as well. In the meantime, now they've been brought on as full-time contract operators for the systems under P&P. Dan Radis, also from Belden Bland and Radis, is our legal counsel, and he helps provide legal assistance to P&P and specializes in water law. Works straight out of the Bakersfield office. A bit of an overview of the administrative program. What is the administrative program? So the administrative program is grant funded through California's Safe and Affordable Funding for Equity and Resilience program, shortened to the SAFER program. I do want to start right off in saying that Provost and Pritchard is entirely funded by grants, and in no way are any of our fees associated with payments directly from any of the accounts of these two systems. So we're completely grant funded. You're taking advantage of your tax dollars at work here. So we were appointed by the State Water Resources Control Board, as I said, and we're really focusing through the administrative program on small communities in need of assistance that are experiencing long-term challenges such as your two systems. And administrators, they can be anybody from individual persons, businesses, nonprofits, local agencies, and other private entities such as Provost and Pritchard and other engineering consultancies. So some of the administrative functions. So as administrator, we really start off our assistance with a water system assessment. So this initial assessment really gives us an overview of the infrastructure of the system, some of those deficiencies, a look at their governance and management, their finances, operations, emergency response, seeing what the system has in place or are missing. For instance, with these two systems, we know both board of directors for both systems have actually chosen to voluntarily disband. We look at where their accounts sit, how they're handling income and expenses, and then we take over these functions ourselves and act as representative for the water systems. So we then become the governing body for these systems. We have separate accounts held for the systems where they have all their income distributed into from customer payments. That also holds any grant operations and maintenance funding that comes in to help subsidize operations of the system. We also have an emergency response line set up, so we'll discuss that a little bit later, but that's with Golden State Water Company, and that helps get Dennis and the rest of the McMoore Water Services team out there in terms of emergency, as well as we function in operating and maintaining the system with McMoore in tandem. We're also going to be conducting a rate study for the system. So this rate study is really going to assess the true cost of operating this system and look at what the realistic rates would need to be. We'll also be investigating what the rates might be in different future scenarios, whether that be consolidation with the city of Bakersfield or the system standing alone. We also address community engagement. So as a part of that, we host these quarterly community engagement meetings. As you can see a picture of here with one of my colleagues, Aaron Kaiser, myself up in Northern California. This can take us to some remote parts of California where we even have meetings hosted outside. This might be something that we look at doing outside the well sites at Old River and South Kern as well for our next meeting. Make it easier for everybody to get to. But these meetings are really to make sure that we're getting community input throughout all stages of this process. So even though we're acting as administrator for the systems and functionally representing the systems in their entirety, we really do want to still have community input and buy-in and be taking your concerns into consideration and addressing those in a timely manner. We also then produce a post-administrator plan that I discussed a bit, and that's really to put a plan in place for the system once PNP steps away after 2 years when our contract concludes. The administrator appointment for South Kern and Old River mutual water companies. So Provost Pritchard was brought on to serve as administrator for these two mutuals after the systems showed repeated inability to operate their systems efficiently and sustainably. South Kern has since 2018 had their water supply in violation of the maximum contaminant level, or the MCL, for uranium and 1,2,3 trichloropropane. It's set by the California Water Board. Those drinking water standards are normally at 30 micrograms for uranium and 0.005 micrograms for TCP. So we are still seeing to date that those MCL are being exceeded by the system. Old River also since 2009 has had their water supply in violation of uranium MCL and has actually been suspended by the Franchise Tax Board for not paying their taxes and ceasing to exist as a legal entity since February 2015. So both systems have also had additional governing issues before having an administrator brought on for the systems. There's actually a mandatory consolidation order from the state water boards in 2018 for both systems to consolidate with the city of Bakersfield. Unfortunately, the systems didn't have operating boards of directors at the time to see that consolidation through and help manage the systems through that process. So that brought us today where the administrative order was issued earlier this year on February 2nd, 2024. That order then authorized PNP, which is Provost Pritchard for short, so you hear me say that a lot throughout this presentation, but PNP to oversee all operations and management of these water systems. So there presently aren't any known board members or representatives for either mutual water company. We would love to meet some of those past board members or reps and get them involved in this process and really get your historical knowledge of the systems and input from you. But per our discussions with the state water boards, we've actually concluded that the boards do not need to be re-elected. We originally thought that we would need to re-elect those board members, but the administrator has been given full authority to act as the decision-making body for both mutual water companies. And while they don't need to be re-elected, if there is significant interest from the community to have those boards re-elected, that is something that we would be open to pursuing with community members. The goals of the administrative program. So what is the aim of bringing in Provost Pritchard as the administrator? So one of the initial goals there is to achieve regulatory compliance. So I talked a little bit about the maximum contaminant levels there, where the systems are both out of compliance. One of our huge overarching goals is to improve operations and maintenance and develop a path forward to meeting those water quality standards. That's not an easy task, especially considering to meet those water quality standards. Both systems will likely need either another supply source or to have treatment installed, a centralized wellhead for both systems. We also want to achieve financial stability for the system. So that includes collecting payments for the systems, really developing a financial strategy to make sure that the water systems can be viable in the future, and helping to manage the supplemental grant funding that I've mentioned. So that can come in the form of operations and maintenance funding or long-term infrastructure funding, both of which are either in place or coming down the pipeline for these two systems and being established. We also, as I've mentioned, really want to ensure that we're getting enough public engagement. So we want to make sure that we're engaging with the customers of the water systems. You should have received community surveys as well by now. We really want you to fill those out and let us know what is the best way to reach you. If that's not in person at an elementary school 5 miles away, then should we be doing that right in person at the well sites in your community? Is it best to reach you via direct mail or via email? Do you have access to internet to connect with our administrator website. We really need your input on that public engagement, and we'll continue to be hosting these meetings quarterly in order to ensure that. Then also have our long-term solution goal. So as we spoke about, either establishing a new water source for the systems or centralized treatment. Another one of those long-term solutions that is going to be the most likely solution would be consolidation with the city of Bakersfield. Because as I mentioned, there has been a mandatory consolidation order already issued by the state water boards. And through that mandatory consolidation, the state water boards has the authority to push consolidation forward with the city of Bakersfield and both mutual water companies. I do want to touch back on that mandatory consolidation with the city of Bakersfield. So that really is a part of our post-administrator plan to be setting up these two water systems for the future, to have sustainable, high-quality water service to their residents, and providing a pathway forward so that we don't experience these same issues that these systems have been facing. So we want them to be able to do that without administrator support as well. So the goal is to really work ourselves out of a job here at the end of our 2 years working with two mutuals. So to do so, we'll be evaluating different TMF issues that I've already addressed a little bit, as technical, managerial, and financial challenges that both systems are facing. We'll then be planning for developing the competency of these two systems to address those challenges, and also evaluating future issues that we can see coming down the pipeline for small water systems, especially these two. There's going to be regulatory compliance issues, tightening water quality standards, metering requirements, infrastructure upgrades, different steps that are needed to complete that consolidation with the city of Bakersfield. So the city will likely have its own requirements as well. And so we'll be making sure that we're addressing all of those and able to see consolidation through with the city. We'll also then be identifying financial and managerial resources that are needed to implement that post-administrator plan. So we'll be looking at funding sources that we're going to need to access in order to make those infrastructure improvements, and having structure in place to manage the systems once Professor Pritchard is not acting as administrator anymore for the systems. All right. We've touched a bit on all the planning that's going on into the administrator program and the rationale behind it. Now we'll touch a little bit on the work that's being completed to date. So as I described a little bit already, we have completed an initial assessment of the systems. So you can see here some of the infrastructure that we've come out and visited at the two systems. It's been degrading quite a bit over the years. So this initial assessment was already completed and submitted to the State Water Board in January 2023. So it was already completed before our contract came into execution early February this year. That assessment included a review of the water system infrastructure, the water quality issues you're facing, operation and maintenance of the systems at present, as well as the managerial structure and practices, as well as the financial status. So a lot of these items have just been left to their own devices up to date since the mutual water company boards voluntarily stepped back from operations. So this initial assessment was really for us to touch base and see what challenges we'd be facing and needing to address in the future. And since it is early on, that's the majority of the work that has been completed to date. We have had smaller pieces that are underway, and that's what we're going to be discussing here. So the Community Accountability Engagement Plan was drafted and submitted to the State Water Board on April 25th of this year and should be finalized this week and submitted to the State Water Board. That plan outlines our public outreach activities for acting as administrator, which includes public comment opportunities, community meetings that I've spoken about happening quarterly out in your community, email notifications and other mail and other direct forms of contact that we can provide updates through, a dedicated web page that we have here at admin.professorpritchard.com/South Kern Old River. We also have a project fact sheet that's been sent out to all of you. Hopefully you received a copy of this, giving a bit of an overview of the systems and the administrative program. Also a survey that I discussed earlier for communication preferences. Please fill these out. I really urge you to fill them out so we're making sure we're reaching you all. and then as well as public comment and response tracking that we'll have available on the website, so you can see comments that have been made by your neighbors. So again, just really want to emphasize the need for these community surveys and getting those filled out so that we can reach you the most effectively. So I said there were other administrative plans along with the CAPE that we've been developing. So the emergency response plan, Kristen's been working on the bulk of that. So that includes different distributors that the system can access in times of need, as well as numbers that those customers can call and get operations assistance out there at the water system. If there's line breaks, if you're having issues with billing, we have numbers that you're going to be able to reach us or one of our sub-consultants through. We also have a governance plan in progress that's really outlining the governance structure of the system at present, how it's going to be governed through the administrator program, and potentially what it might look like as we progress further through the administrator program. We also have a financial management plan, different pieces that we're going to be addressing for the finances of the system, just different policies that we're going to need to develop, a lot to do with billing and rates, as well as different just late fee policies, etc. Water system performance. We'll touch a bit on how the system has been operating at present. So as I mentioned before, you might be familiar with McMoore Water Services already. They will be continuing on as operators for the systems. They've been continuing on schedule with sampling for Old River Mutual Water Company. This has been restarted for South Kern, so we're getting back into compliance for monitoring schedules for the systems. That said, while we are returning to compliance for the monitoring, these samples are still indicating that the contaminants are well above the maximum contaminant levels that are allowed by the State Water Board. As I said before, South Kern, uranium and 123 TCP are well over the limits, as well as uranium at Old River. These results are publicly accessible as well at the website listed here. That is for all water systems in California, so if you ever want to see updated figures, while we'll be discussing those at these community meetings, these are all up to date and on this website here. If you just go in and search your water system you're serviced by. So P&P is really, we're building a list of deficiencies right now that we're going to be prioritizing for the system, and then building maintenance programs as well, so being able to address a lot of those deficiencies. Emergency response. So as I said, emergency response plans are being drafted, and once these are approved, the plans will be added to the website, that admin at provisandpritchard.com. The current status of both water systems is unsafe. It's under a do not drink order. This is very different to a boil water notice, so we really do not encourage people to just be boiling water and thinking that that will cure all these contaminants. It actually may have a detrimental effect where boiling the water can increase the concentration of contaminants. So we just recommend do not drink the water at present. And that order has been issued by the Division of Drinking Water at the State Water Boards. So until the water systems have contaminant levels below their maximum limits, this order will remain in place. And as I said, in the case of an emergency, Golden State Water Company does have an emergency 1-800 line listed here. So that's 800-999-0403. That could be reached in any time of emergency, and they will be reaching out to our operator to dispatch them at earliest possible convenience. You can also email customer service at Golden State Water, email or phone if you do have any billing issues. These would be the contact. This would be the contact number as well as email address to reach out to. If you're having issues signing up with your account, paying your bill, they can help you directly on these lines. So billing and water rates. So this here on the right is a sample bill from Golden State Water Company that you should have received in the mail by now. So these customer accounts have been set up with Golden State Water Company for billing and customer services. For Old River Water Company, they were established in February 2024. McMoore did cease managing those billing services after January of this year. So you should have received already bills for February, March, and April. of this year. So please pay those at your earliest convenience. For South Kern Mutual Water Company customers, those will be starting likely for April of this year. We've just had some more challenges getting correct addresses for customers for South Kern. So again, if you have not received one of these bills, we do encourage you to reach out at one of the contact numbers supplied in this presentation so we can confirm your address and check that off our list. The bills will be proceeding at $50 per month for both systems. That will just be a flat rate per month. Neither system has individual water meters, so there's no metered rate that goes into that. It will just be maintained at the previous flat rate. And any rate increases or discussion of that will be had at community meetings, and we'll be notifying anybody well ahead of time if we do foresee any increases in those rates. And again, to touch back on the operations and maintenance funding of these systems, P&P isn't funded out of any of your rates that are coming out of your systems accounts. So that is purely going towards operation and maintenance of your water systems. That'll be paying for things like minor improvements, just monthly bills such as power, sampling fees, etc. A lot of those can be eligible for operation and maintenance funds that will be subsidizing the system, but that is what customer payments will also be going towards. So just to be clear that none of that will be going towards Purvis and Pritchard fees. And I already mentioned that any rates increases that are going to be made or even considered increasing, we will be discussing that with residents at one of these community meetings before any increases are made. That would be done after a rate study is being conducted, and it's estimated that any of those rates that we would look at increasing the system to would be in line with the future rate that the City of Bakersfield's customers pay. It will be a different rate structure if increased in the next few years pre-consolidation with the city, just because obviously the operations of the system are different, and not having meters on each of the connections makes it hard to have any metered fees, or metered rates. And so those would remain at flat rates. Touching on the financial health of the system, so P&P has set up individual bank accounts for both mutual water companies, and that's for processing payments as well as holding any grant funding that's coming in for subsidizing the systems. And we'll be providing a snapshot of the financial health for both of these systems at our future quarterly meetings. So that'll include things such as the revenue, expenses, and grant funding for both systems. We don't have a snapshot of that for this initial meeting, seeing as we're just getting started as administrator and we're still waiting on grant funding to be incoming to these accounts, but we'll provide snapshots of this at future meetings. So goal here is really to just ensure transparency with all the financial health of these systems. So if you ever have any questions relating to the finance of the systems, we'll be more than open about those. So upcoming activities and looking ahead, we're getting towards the end of the presentation here. Just looking at some of our major projects and plans. So technical assistance is underway for the system. So while Purvis & Pritchard is a technical assistance provider, we do, for the sake of checks and balances, have Sacramento State University. They're under contract with the State Water Board as well to provide long-term consolidation assistance. So they're going to be assisting on items such as plans and specifications, engineering report, any environmental planning that has to go into place, permitting, funding applications for long-term improvements. That will all be primarily going through Sacramento State University, and their lead for that project for Sac State is Randy Marks. Robert Mullaney of UC Davis Aoki Water Justice Clinic is also providing legal assistance for the consolidation with City of Bakersfield. So he and his team will be assisting deeply with a lot of the legal intricacies that go into a consolidation. As you can imagine, there's a lot associated with the mutual water companies dissolving and the City of Bakersfield taking over water service. So Rob and his team will be assisting us with those processes. So through these major projects and plans, a lot of the items that we'll be addressing are just routine maintenance, but then also upgrades to the water system planned under operations and the maintenance funding. So that operations and maintenance funding is much more short term. That's for the next 2 years while we're serving as administrator. So that's going to include upgrades to the system, such as items that we've already recognized, such as adding screen casing vents, installing flow meters on the system, since we can't monitor flow rates very easily at the moment, and the quantity of water actually being pumped by your systems, including a check valve in there as well, and eventually disconnecting an abandoned well that's being noted over at Old River as well. So those are just a few of the improvements that we've initially seen need to be done, but we'll be looking at more of those in the future and addressing them as time goes on. So our future community engagement. So I've touched on it a lot already, but these community quarterly meetings will be continuing every 3 months throughout the year. So your community surveys are really going to help us identify how we best reach you, not only at those meetings, but via mail, email, online, etc. So please do join our email list. If you scan this QR code here, you'll be able to enter in your name on a sign-in sheet, as well as submitting a community survey as well on communications. You can also enter in your email, and then you'll be able to receive different notices and communications via email. But whichever works best for you, we just ask that you please let us know so that we're able to communicate to you in your preferred way. That wraps up this presentation. Thank you again for taking time out of your day to watch this recording. Please reach out to us. If you have any immediate concerns or questions, you can reach out to Golden State Water Company regarding your billing or anything to do with the water system. This 1-800 number here, as well as our customer service email. We also have our direct line to Professor Pritchard as well on the following slide. So any public comment that you have, please feel free to call our office. This number here, 559-449-2700. We'll connect to our Fresno office in Clovis, and you can ask for Hamish Kellum, and that'll be transferred directly to me. Otherwise, Steve Spencer and Kristen Bitzberger are also available for communications or any questions that you might have in the meantime, all via that number to our office, and they'll transfer you. You can also be reached directly at the email here at southkernoldriver@ppng.com, or you can mail your comment cards or surveys to the below mailing address at Fur Avenue. So please do send in those community surveys. We really want to hear from you and get feedback, and we look forward to working further together in the next couple of years. So we'll see you all hopefully in the next community meeting. That'll be in 3 months' time. And you'll be mailed out a notice to your address with the specific date and time and location of that meeting. So really look forward to seeing you then, hopefully. And thank you again for your time. Take care.